Imagine you have a child, and when they're a few months old, you start to notice something unusual. You worry something is wrong. So you go to the doctor, and they tell you your child is developmentally delayed and will need extensive physical and speech therapy. That's a hard thing for any parent to hear. But then it gets worse. The therapy that can help your child and that you're entitled to has a huge wait list. And the reason? A software glitch. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Clarkson University, offering over 95 programs of study with campuses in the Hudson Valley, Central, and Northern New York. More at clarkson.edu.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Friday, December 13th. Don't say it. First up, the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe has signed a settlement that would end the 42-year-old Mohawk land claim. Under the deal, the tribe, which represents the U.S. side of Akwesasne, would be able to bring up to 14,000 acres of land in Franklin and St. Lawrence counties back into Mohawk ownership. It would also give the tribe $2 million a year from the New York Power Authority, low-cost electricity, and free SUNY tuition for Akwesasne Mohawk students. Franklin and St. Lawrence counties have already signed on to the deal. Governor Kathy Hochul signed a law last year moving the settlement forward. In a statement, the tribal council chief said the deal was better than a more risky plan to continue to challenge in the courts. The land is the most important aspect, the tribal council said. But the traditional Longhouse Council of Chiefs and the Canada-recognized Tribal Council are also parties in the land claim. Many traditional tribal members have opposed the settlement, saying it would forever extinguish the Mohawks' title to their original territory. Bear Clan mother Louise Hearn McDonald told the newspaper Eastern Door, quote, "We are greatly opposed to it as it reads. It remains unclear how the land claim will proceed without the other tribal council's support. The deal would eventually need to be ratified by Congress." Over a dozen activists are facing criminal trespassing charges for staging a sit-in at the New York State Capitol last week. As Rebecca Redelmeyer reports for the New York Public News Network, the protesters are calling on Governor Kathy Hochul to sign a key piece of climate legislation into law before the end of the year.
The Climate Change Superfund Act would require large oil and gas companies to pay for part of the harm caused by climate change. It would fund projects to help the state better withstand the effects of extreme weather and floods, which are becoming more common as the world warms. The bill passed the state legislature earlier this year. Helen Mancini is a high school senior and climate organizer from New York City who joined protests at the state Capitol building Tuesday, urging Hochul to sign the bill into law.
We have to accept that climate change is here and that we need to find out a model of how to deal with it.
At least 18 activists were arrested during the 3 days of protests. State police said they refused to vacate the building after it closed to the public. Hochul has until the end of the year to sign the bill into law, or it will die. To Mancini, there's no time to waste.
It's her duty as our governor to do what is democratically decided, and I think she's really throwing us under the bus, throwing my future under the bus by not taking action on climate change.
Politico reported last week that Hochul proposed changes to the bill, indicating that negotiations are underway. In Ithaca, I'm Rebecca Redelmeyer for the New York Public News Network.
A beloved flour mill in Essex County is closed. Champlain Valley Milling in Willsboro was at one point the largest 100% organic flour mill in New York State. Jody Olcott with the Essex County Industrial Development Agency says the business had been struggling since COVID.
We knew, things were, slowing for the business. We had hoped that potentially acquiring a few more customers would change their circumstance.
Olcott says the closure is a huge loss for the town and county. Sam and Dorinda Sherman founded Champlain Valley Milling in Westport almost 40 years ago. The closure leaves behind many devoted baking customers. Dan Rivera co-owns Triple Green Jade Farm, which makes organic artisan bread. He says he hopes the facility can get repurposed.
So I just think there's tons of ideas and with new energy in the area and things like that, someone could maybe use that space for something else.
Olcott says it's unclear what will happen next for the facility, though it could head into foreclosure. Still, she says the county has some other great projects on the horizon. There's a federally mandated program that provides physical and speech therapy for infants who are developing more slowly than others. It's called early intervention. But parents and their children have been on wait lists for months, even years in New York State. Part of the problem is a severe therapist shortage, but a software glitch has made the situation untenable the last few months. Amy Feiereisel explains why.
On October 15th, New York State rolled out a new software system for its early intervention program. But it's been riddled with issues from the day it launched. Raymond Pierce is the director of New York's Bureau of Early Intervention.
So unfortunately, the launch of the iHub did not go as smoothly as expected, and I apologize for the frustration it is causing our community.
This might sound like run-of-the-mill glitchy software, but it's having a devastating effect on children actually getting therapy. Marina Yogol works for the Westchester County Department of Health. She says every county in the state is struggling with therapists not getting paid, previously simple tasks taking hours, and information disappearing or in the wrong place.
We continue to get calls from the provider community where their billing is stuck. We have no way to help them. We continue to have staff on overload. It does take a long time.
She says they're starting to lose people.
We've had service coordinators that are quitting, providers that are, wanting to close shop.
Yogol and Pierce both spoke in Albany on Wednesday at a meeting of the Early Intervention Coordinating Council, which is the advisory board to the State Bureau of Early Intervention. Issues with the new software dominated the meeting. During public comment, providers, parents, and advocates were emotional and angry.
I think we need answers. Was the EI Hub even seriously tested before its launch?
We cannot afford to lose any providers due to funding and computer issues. This will all negatively impact the children we serve.
There are babies behind the data. There are human beings behind the data.
Here's some important background. The new software system, called EI Hub, replaced an old one, which, according to members of the council and the early intervention community, worked better. The new system was designed and implemented by a private third-party company called Public Consulting Group, or PCG. The state awarded them an over $50 million contract in 2020, and the new software has been 4 years in the making. PCG had representatives at the council meeting. The council's chair, Steve Held, had one main question for them.
When is it going to be done? You now have the breadth of the challenges that we all had anticipated would come out of the sandbox.
Held is referring to the testing of the software, during which therapists gave a lot of negative feedback and urged the state not to release it yet.
In your estimation, when is this going to run smoothly?
What followed was a lot of back and forth, with PCG project manager Rob Lillipop avoiding giving a timeline and pointing to fixes they've made in the last 2 months.
I can say we have a short list of items that we think contain most of what are the pain points that we're hearing today.
Finally, after Held pressed for a fourth time for a date, Lillipop said,
I would hope that within a month we'll have gotten through those big ones, but I'm not saying that there aren't going to be other ones after that we aren't aware of.
Another month will make it 3 months that providers have been struggling to get paid and provide therapy. And advocates say it's another month where therapists will leave the field and find jobs in school districts, where they won't have to deal with payment issues and hung software. Steve Held said that's already happening.
We have people pulling out of EI on a weekly basis. I'm one that hears about that from time to time, not time to time, every day.
At the end of the meeting, the council passed a motion expressing its serious concern with the rollout of the EI Hub. The state and PCG both said they're working on it. Held says who will really suffer in the meantime are the very young children with autism, speech and motor challenges, and other developmental delays, and their parents, who are waiting for therapy they might never receive. Amy Feiereisel, North Country Public Radio.
Coming up next week, we'll have more about how this new software system is impacting providers and families in the North Country, and a deeper dive into why New York's early intervention system is in such crisis. We have more news all the time and through the weekend on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Eddie Lawrence of Moira and Paul Myers of Colton. Have a great weekend. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.